Lads, welcome back to the channel. We are here today. We're doing a vlog of sorts. So I'm bringing you the deck profile at the very beginning. Today we're going to locals, and we're going to be playing at Zeke's Comics up in Peoria, Washington, Illinois, the area. And today I'm going to be playing a different kind of deck. I'm going to be playing a control deck because I want to do something a little different. And today I want to bring you something that you can buy on a very strict budget. This deck, I built the entire thing for just around $100, and you can make it even cheaper than that, because if you have some of the staples and the core stuff, and you bought it while they were cheap, this main deck and extra deck and side deck are actually really affordable. The most expensive cards being six spell cards, well, 6 copies of 2 spell cards, and I will get to that when we get into the deck, but we are playing Crawler Control. That's right. And we're going to dive right into the profile, moving the extra deck and the main deck over, and we're going to start this up. Lads, if you want to support the channel, pass the like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out our shop at teespring.com, link in the description. And until December 31st of 2019, if you use the code FUSION15, you can save an additional 15% off your order. Happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of your video. Alright, diving right into the main deck, lads. We've got triple copies of Crawler Receptor. This is Rhoda for all your Crawler monsters. It just adds them to your hand. It adds a Crawler monster from your deck to your hand. It's a level 3, or level 2. All your Crawler monsters are level 2 except for one. We'll get to him in a minute. But Receptor, that's its flip effect, is it adds 1 crawler from deck to hand. But all the crawlers, all the little crawlers, the little 2s, they all share a secondary effect. When they are removed from the field by an opponent's card effect, you're able to summon 2 crawler monsters from your deck in face up or face down defense. And that effect actually, or no, it's just in face down, I'm sorry. But it's super useful because you're able to do it during your opponent's turn and do a lot of triggering. So you can do a lot of really cool things with this deck and really just annoy your opponent to death with a very defensive deck, and you can get some surprise factor in with some of these cards. So first up is 3 Receptor. Next up is triple copies of Glial. Glial special summons a crawler monster from your hand or graveyard. And that's super important. It does not target, so if they have to called by the Graveyard in a shotgun form. So if they don't respond to, I flip summon Crawler Glial, and they say no response, you get to summon one. And they can't called by the grave because it's not targeting. So they have to shotgun called by the grave, and that's on them. And then it's still got the secondary effect. Next up are your little ones. So you've got Ranveer. Ranveer is a one-of, you'll see why these are so low count. But Ranveer adds 2 from the graveyard back to your hand. This card's great in late game, and this deck goes into the late game. 1 Dendrite, it's Foolish Burial. It's not as good. If you're playing a pure crawler variant where you're playing a lot of different crawlers, Dendrite's a definite 3 of. But in this version of the deck, it's a 1 of because you have so many ways to get stuff to the graveyard. And even in the pure version, I only ran 2. I found Dendrite is kind of it's not a good 3 of. The 3 ofs are definitely the other 2. The rest of these, I wouldn't run more than 2 in a pure crawler build. Then 1 Axon. Axon is MST when it's flip summoned. And then 1 Spine, which is a monster pop. It's Man-Eater Bug, but with a bigger bootay. It's 2100 defense to level 2. And them being level 2s is actually really important. And now for the boss monster of the deck. Best card in the whole deck. This card shuts down your opponent's monster's effects when it's flipped face up. And its flip effect is a quick effect. So if it's targeted by a card effect, so if they use like Nightmare Cerberus and target it with Cerberus's effect, you can flip it, and once it's flipped, your opponent can't activate monster effects on their field. So, or in their possession. Hold on, let me double check that just to make sure I tell you correctly. Yeah, it negates all monster effects on your opponent's field. So it's crazy. That includes the GY, that includes the field. So hand traps that resolve in the graveyard, that's on the field. That's how I've seen it ruled. Now that may be incorrect, but that's just the only way I've seen it ruled so far, and it's super annoying. So Deus Ex Crawler and it's a 3000 booty, but you can get it to tack up to 32. In the late game, this is part of the OTK, so people are like, oh, we're going to grind you out, we're going to grind you out, because you're going to burn through a lot of resources in this deck. But this with the Link monsters is incredibly big, it does double damage, it can attack twice, and just how the deck operates, you get him out you get the combo out and fully finished about 5 turns in. So it's a grind game. You play the long game with this deck, but you can do some really unfair stuff, and then you can just kind of OTK out of nowhere. You don't really deal a lot of damage. And there's still some space in the deck that I'm trying to figure out, but for $100, it's not bad. So let's move on to the spells. Alright, for the spells. First is Triple World Legacies in Shadow. So in Shadow it gives a 300 point boost to all the Crawler monsters, which actually comes up. It allows you to special summon and face up or face down defense any Crawler monster. And when your opponent battles a flip monster, you send the monster to the graveyard. So it's non-targeting destruction. It just removes it. It just says send it. And then your 4th copy of World Legacy in Shadow is Terraforming. Next up, it's for the draw engine of the deck. And the draw engine for spells is pretty heavy. So first off, we've got Triple World Legacy Survivor. World Legacy Survivor for this deck is incredible. It excavates the top 5 cards of your deck. You get to add a World Legacy or Crawler card from those 5 to your hand. The other 4 go to the graveyard. So for Crawlers, it's really good because it gets you to the pieces you need. Sometimes you hit things you don't want to hit, but it's really just about getting to certain cards to win the game. And this card's incredible for that. Then, triple copies of Card of Demise. This is one of the expensive cards. Card of Demise is pretty pricey. But Card of Demise is super good in this deck because, as you noticed, we only have 11 monsters in the main deck. Not a lot of monsters. So we want to be able to dig through our deck to get to the really powerful spells and traps in our deck. Then, to pair with this, because I don't know why people don't pair this card with Card of Demise, if you're playing Card of Demise, Into the Void is negligent. You can activate Card of Demise, and then if you draw Into the Void, you just Into the Void, and it's a free space in your deck. It's a free spell card. Now, this deck is running at 45, but I don't mind that because I don't want to see all my Crawler monsters early. I want to kind of grind out the game as much as possible, so I had to put some cards in here to draw into my powerful cards, but also to fill up space so it's decreasing my percentages. And then finally, 3 copies of Wormbait, which is not once per turn, and it only locks you out of special summoning level 3s and 4s. It's oddly specific. So Wormbait's incredible because it lets you go into your extra deck stuff. Basically, if you have 2 of these, let's say Glial and something else with a Deus Ex in graveyard, all you have to do is flip summon Glial, summon Deus Ex, and then into this zone here. Then you'll special summon this, you'll make Qualiarch, use your Wormbait, and then just kind of go off. Because your Wormbaits will just fill up the stuff. So Wormbait is incredible in this deck, and it's not hard once per turn, which is the best. So we're going to now move on to the most powerful cards in the deck, the trap cards. Alright, trap cards. Now, we've got a good amount of them, but these trap cards the first 6 are the most powerful cards in this deck. So first off is going to be the Continuous Trap, 3 copies of World Legacy Pawns. So World Legacy Pawns lets you flip any face-down monster into face-up defense position, which triggers its flip effect, or it lets you flip it face down by shuffling a Crawler back into the deck. So it recycles your Crawlers into deck to reuse your flip effects, which is just stupid insane. And it also flips these face up during your opponent's turn so you can trigger other cards. And that other card that you want to trigger after you use this card will be triple copies of World Legacy's Mind Meld. So how this works is if you have this and this on the field, World Legacy Mind Meld changes your opponent's monster effect to return 1 face-up monster on the field to the hand. So what you'll do is, let's say you have Receptor set, just as a giggles thing. So what you'll do is you'll flip World Legacy's Pawns to flip this face up. Get your search. Let's say we add Crawler Spine, just for giggles. Now your opponent activates a monster effect, like because it's a new chain and it's already flipped face up. So now that new chain starts with this. It's a triggered effect. It's a mandatory trigger because it's a flip summon. So now they'll activate Ash to negate this. Then you flip Mind Meld, and they'll be forced to bounce this to hand, but its flip effect is still triggering because it changed the effect. So now you'll be able to set Deus Ex for free, as well as Glial from the deck, as an example. And now you've got 2 cards in hand, 2 monsters in hand, and you've got 2 monsters in the field. So you've just increased it because they played cards. So Mind Meld is just incredibly powerful. Next up are the traps. This is the last 3 of. Everything else is a 2 of or a 1 of. 3 copies of Lost Wind. Lost Wind is just so good. It resets itself, so if you hit it off of World Legacy Survivor, it's not a negative because it still gives you that free negate, and it makes them play around it, which is super fun. And you could sit on this for a while. I've had a Lost Wind. I played a game with Thunder Dragon where I just kind of waited, and Lost Wind was the reason I won, because instead of just shotgunning it and saying no, I waited for the right time to negate its effects and turn it to cut its attack and defense in half permanently. And the Krawler monster that does double damage is only through battle damage with a monster. So this card is really important for finishing the game. You just have to hit 1 monster and you're basically going to kill them, because it'll go from, let's say 1600 is I think the highest I've had anything get half attack with Lost Wind. So at half attack it's 1600. I hit it with 32, so they're taking 3200 damage, which is almost half their life. And then you just kind of swing in with everything else and you're going to kill them. Next up is 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. Heavy Storm Duster is just to remove back row. This deck struggles against Mystic Mine because you have to build advantage. So this is the only way to get around that. It struggles against other control decks, and this is how you get around that. But against combo decks, this deck is actually really strong. Then 2 copies of Compulse. I like Compulse in this deck. Just bouncing things back to hand is really strong. This card's insane in this format. 2 copies of Storming Mirror Force because nobody expects battle traps, especially main decked. I think it's incredible in this deck because instead of, it's not destroying them, it's forcing them to reuse monster effects, which makes Mind Meld even better. And Mind Meld, when they summon a Link monster, you're able to summon a Krawler monster from your graveyard to a Link zone. So if they special something like Saryuja, you can, if you have Deus Ex in the graveyard, you can just place it right there. Next up is 2 copies of Reckless Greed. Basically, if they Twin Twister, if they're maining Twin Twister or Cosmic Cyclone, and they target this because you're going to probably have set 5, Reckless Greed is just a free way to draw cards. And then finally, a card that's almost always live, and I still get laughed at every time I activate it, but it ends up helping, is Jar of Avarice, because it lets you recycle 5 cards into the deck, and it's a free bait for Called by the Grave. Like, I can say, okay, Jar of Avarice, target these 5. Let's say no, and we're going to hit that with anything. Okay, you just wasted your time because that was bait. Let's Call by the Grave. Great, that's what I needed. Thank you. Alright, let's move into the extra deck. Alright, time for the extra deck. So the extra deck has double Qualiarch, X-Crawler Qualiarch. So Qualiarch has multiple different effects. Excuse me. If there's 2 or more Crawler monsters on the field, all Crawler monsters gain 300 attack and defense. If there's 4 or more, then I have to double check this. If there's 4 or more, your opponent can activate cards or effects during the battle phase, and with 6 or more, your Crawler monsters can attack directly. It hasn't happened a lot, but I have actually gotten 6 on the field with this and just killed them through a full board. I was just able to combo off and full board them. Next up is double Neurogos. Neurogos is the one that whatever they're pointing to gets 300 attack and defense, and then on top of that, any battle damage it inflicts. This is the one that doubles battle damage. So, and it's only to the ones that it points to. So, and then obviously there's the next one, which allows it to make 2 attacks on monsters and does 300 attack and defense. So basically your field, what it'll look like, as a rough example, is extra monster zone, there, and then Deus Ex here. So you can kind of see it. And if you're really fortunate, or you're able to keep this alive long enough, or the traps alive long enough, what will happen is that you'll have World Legacy pawns set somewhere, so you're able to set this off of Goliath and then flip it face up, so your opponent can't even use monster effects. And then this is a huge 3200 body that will deal double damage and can attack twice. So let's say they have, I don't know, two 1600 bodies. You're going to deal 6400 damage before these guys even attack, which is crazy, because this will be 3200 with the field spell. So it's 2900 right now, but let's just assume the field spell's there because it's almost always on the field. And that is it for the Krawler part of the extra deck. So, no, that's not Neurogos. That should have been Synapsis, but it's one of each. There are two of each. 2 Neurogos, 2 Synapsis, and 2 Krawlers, which is incredible. Next up is 1 Link Karibo. It's just a level 1. Comes up with Wormbait, because Wormbaits are level 1. It's just a way to use them. But what you'll usually do if you're in a bad position or you've tried your X-Crawler stuff and it didn't work out, you've also got access to Inzictor Picafalena. Picafalena will let you equip a monster from the deck, so it allows you to get Deus Ex out of the deck or anything out of the deck, so you don't dead draw cards. So Wormbait then go into this, gives you 2 down arrows, which is nice, and then go on from there. Pretty insane card. And then it can shuffle 3 insect monsters in the graveyard into the deck and then draw a card. Then 1 Sub-Terror Behemoth Fiendus. Requires 2 flip monsters. It's really strong. Gives you a big body late game. And I haven't actually used this yet, but it lets you add a flip monster from your graveyard or your deck to your hand. So it's like, it just returns more cards. It's really strong. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but it's super powerful when you do get the chance to use it, I'm sure. And its moments are definitely going to be there. Then the Nightmare package, so 1 Cerberus, 1 Phoenix, and 1 Unicorn. I actually do use these quite often in rougher matchups. Obviously, spinning, spell, and trap removal, spell trap, and monster removal is really important. So these 3 guys are very generic, very easy to make with Wormbait and things like that. And then finally, the last 3 cards: 1 Borreload, 1 Boral Sword. Borreload to steal problematic monsters actually does come up. Boral Sword for gaming people. If you can't go into the full Qualiart combo, that's what we're going to call it, the Q combo, you can Boral Sword them a lot earlier for game. It just kind of depends on what you need. And it gets your Deus Ex to defense position, so you can go Deus Ex, hit him, Boral Sword, hit him, turn Deus Ex to defense position, hit him again. Stop hitting yourself. And then the last card, which is super fun to pull off. So if you're able to get this on the field, if you have 2 more Crawlers, instead of doing the direct attack approach, what you can do is overlay the 2 level 2s into this, and then detach 1, target a monster, negate its effects, turn its attack to 0, hit them for 64, and then finish them off with just one decisive double hit. So this card actually comes up with the double hitting, and if they get rid of Qualiarch or whatever, you can deal a lot of damage this way. Next is the side deck. Alright, in the side deck, we've got triple copies of Cosmic Cyclone. Cyclone is just a quick play way to remove back row. Then we've got 2 copies of Called by the Grave. This is just good for the Salamangreat matchup, an Orcust matchup. It's a great way to get rid of problematic resources. And then 2 copies of Pot of Duality. This is only, like, if I know for sure I'm going first, sometime, and I don't see back row removal, or I know the deck isn't going to play certain back row removals, I'll play Pot of Duality over the the Reckless Greeds. It's a good way to mitigate that, but this can be a flex pick. You can put anything here. I just like the Duality. Next up is the 3rd copy of 1 of each: Heavy Stormduster, Compulse, and Storming. Depending on the matchup, like if this card isn't very good, I take both those 2 out. Like if I'm playing them like Thunder Dragon, I'll take all the Heavy Stormdusters out. I'll run Compulse and Storming. If Compulse isn't very good, like it's on targeting stuff, I'll add in the Mirror Forces. It just kind of depends on the matchup. But typically, when these two are bad, this one's good. When this one's bad, these 2 are good. So it's just kind of, they're able to flex themselves in for each other, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility in the main deck and the side deck. Then 2 copies of Back to the Front. I wanted a card that I could set to be able to revive my Krawler monsters, and as a great way to bait back row hate. And this was, I felt, the best option. And then finally, 3 copies of Dark Bribe, because Evenly Matched is a card that exists. Red Reboot is a card that exists. I've actually contemplated about cutting both dualities and maybe a Back to the Front to put in 3 Wiretap, and that very well could be the case, and I may regret doing that today at locals, but I think that Dark Bribe is good enough on its own, and I have enough draw power to be able to do it, because I don't care how many cards they have. It doesn't really matter to me, but I think Wiretap might be a card that I have to look at. So guys, that's it for this deck profile. We will check in here in a minute, letting you guys know what's going on, where we're at, all the fun stuff, all the details of course, locals this week. Let's have fun with this vlog. I hope you guys enjoy the games and any other footage that I can bring you guys. Hopefully this one will be a little different than my last ones. I'm trying to make my quality on these a lot better. So let's dive right in, shall we? Last minute changes. Made a couple of minor adjustments. I just removed 3 cards. I found in testing that these 3 cards either were clocking or it just wasn't worth it. So I got one of this and one of each of these. I've been doing a little bit of mild testing. I'm not enjoying seeing those in multiples, so I think 3 of those 2, and then the one of was just kind of silly. So I'm cutting those out. We're going to see how it looks. So we're going to test it. Same list, just remove those 3 cards, and the side deck is the same. So no other changes, just minor stuff. Just cutting down copies of stuff to make it flow better, and I found that this is flowing a little bit better. I'm seeing monsters, but not all my monsters, which is important. And I'm able to take care of all my hate. So let's dive right in. Alright, game 1 was Krawler versus Paleo Frogs. Control decks are the bane of my existence. I can handle combo, I cannot handle that. I don't have I have to side for it. I took game 1 just because I had better back row hate. Game 2, he took it. I opened all my stuff that I didn't. I opened 3 ofs, traps, and 1 of. It just wasn't enough. It was the wrong combination of stuff. Game 3, I took it. I opened pretty well, and I was able to just grind him out, which is hard to do, and then he desires everything away, so he just kind of lost everything that way. Is what it is. That's how the game works. So game 2, let's see where we go. Game 2, Luna Light Orchestra. Got mollywopped. Just game 1, I didn't have enough reason. He went first, full comboed me, and I didn't have enough to break it. It's not a board breaker, so there's a lot of negates. I'm not gonna win that game 1, but I tried. Game 2, I opened nothing. I saw only monsters the whole game. With 11 monsters, that's not really mathematically possible, but it happened. If there's bad luck, I've got it. So we're 1-1. We'll keep playing and seeing how it goes. Alright, game 3, played Thunder Dragon Pure, the worst matchup of the deck. Only won because of time. That's literally it. That's a BS reason to win. So, but it is what it is. So move on. Game 2, I was just able to outgrind him and outlast him, and then OTK him. Game 1, he mollywopped me. And game 3, I only won because he instant fusion. If it wasn't for instant fusion, it was a tie. So grindy games, grindy games. So we're gonna move on to round 4. We're 2-1. Let's see if we can take it. Let's see if we can go through. We did it. We made top 5. We topped it. It was top 5 tonight for the box tourney. So I walked away with 5, 3-1 record. Played Thunder Dragon again. This game I just saw my resources. I was able to 2-0 him even though I went second. So if you see the right cards, the right resources, you're able to play through a lot of stuff. We'll do a full recap of what's going on and the things that annoyed me about today and the things that I got right. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. Well, you'll see me in a few minutes. I've got a bit of a drive. So we'll do the pack opening. Yeah, we'll do it here. Let's just do it here. Let's okay. Zoom in a little bit. And let's see what we get. Ooh, a Jinzo. Brotherhood of Firefist Dragon. Super Rejuvenation. Mathmech Sigma. And Boss of Ice. about that deck. So, generator. We're gonna zoom in some more. Actually, this is okay. 2. Alright, generate. Sign it back door. Dragon Maid. Changeover. Generator, boss, loot, and a math card. So, pretty cool. Let's see here. Now we got Thickum, Enrus. Ooh, we got a Super Tempest. I don't need that. We're Legacy Guard, Dragon Almadrake, and Dragon Maid, Yarla. Okay. Subcharger, Generate Boss Fight, Tricking of All Calamities, Loot, and ooh, Nurse Dragon Maid, nice! How much is Nurse going for? Does anybody know? No, I pulled one. Generate Boss Fight, Sign It Back Door, Dragon Maid Changeover, Heavy Slump, and Dragon Maid Laport. So, very nice. We pulled Nurse, the one everybody's hunting, so Nursey, we're good. Pulled some Dragon Maids. So we're gonna zoom out here and zoom out. Woo! Alright guys. So that's it. We're done with locals for today. We'll be back with a recap of the entire event here in a little bit. Alright lads. Not locals. Like I said in the very beginning and earlier in the episode, we had a few changes. We took out a World Legacy Pawn, we took out a Jar of Avarice, and we took out a Wormbait, and I never missed those cards. I honestly, I want to try and figure out a way to cut it down to 40, and I think I know what I want to take out, but it's hard. I think 42 is honestly my lucky number. It did really well today. Let's go through my matchups again real quick, just to kind of explain it. So, I'm playing against Paleozoic Frogs, totally awesome deck, and it did its job. It was a hard matchup. I was able to just outgrind them both games, which was important. Game 2, Lunalight Orcus. The Lunalight Orcus deck is really hard to beat for this deck when you don't see the cards that it needs to beat it. And we run, what, 3, 6, 9, 11? Main deck cards to draw cards. I don't know, and I didn't see any, or the ones I did see just weren't, I couldn't use. And he was just able to outgrind me. He was just able to put up enough damage to kill me quickly. There was nothing I could do. It was beyond my power. It is what it is. So game 2, round 2 was a swift loss. But then I went 2-0 against Thunder Dragon. That's right. We 2-1 Thunder Dragon in time, and we 2-0'd Thunder Dragon in game 4, final match 4, which gave us the top 5. So, it is what it is. We only lost once, which is fine. It's rough. I would have liked to have topped. I would have liked to have gotten first. But that one loss was just, it was too much. It was insurmountable for me. It's Krawlers. They've got a very high, it requires a bit of skill. You have to be smart. You have to make the right choices. And I did when I had the choices available to me. The problem was, I think ratios need fixed, and I'm going to look at it and see what I can come up with to potentially make my deck a little bit more streamlined. But I think this deck is a really solid pick for people. It's super fun. Next time, I'm probably going to play something different, but this deck is super fun. For $100, great deck to play, and we won 5 packs in 5th place. Not bad. There was about, I think, 20 people there, so, I mean, 5th place isn't bad. We were in the top 4%, so not bad. Good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the vlog. Make sure to follow me on the Twitter. Twitter is where I've been a lot more active. Facebook, check out the Teespring. We got merch. Fusion15 for your 15% off. I'm going to eat dinner and knock out the rest of editing this together. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully, that next vlog will be amazing. See you guys soon.